Dice Tower Tonight, episode 19.
Pros and cons.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Tom is on the road, so it's just Crystal and me discussing some recent games. We'll also test each other with some live challenges, discuss how many games we really need to get at conventions, and then take your questions live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, though I'm sure she'd rather be on the couch watching tonight's big sporting event, the premiere of American Ninja Warrior, it's Crystal Pisano.
Definitely true. American Ninja Warrior is 100% where my focus would be if I were not here right now.
I'm sure. No, I'm sure it's the Stanley Cup with Vegas's team in the running. It's only game 2, though, so you're fine.
It's only game 2. I'm not freaking out. I'm wearing my shirt. It's fine. Everything is good. I've been following along on Twitter. Go Knights go. I'm very excited. I'm bummed that I don't have tickets to any of the games here in town, but whoo, baby, were they expensive.
I would imagine they are. If you're all the way at the top of the heap right now. Yeah, those have to be pretty expensive tickets.
Yeah. Really, really expensive, but it's okay. I got to go to one of the regular season games, and that was a lot of fun. So
awesome. Well, it's great to see you, Crystal. It's been quite a few weeks of fun around here in Connecticut, but power is back. Trees are starting to get cleaned up on my street. There's still a lot of chainsaws and chipper shredders running all the time, but we're doing much better.
I'm really glad that you finally got power back and that you guys are starting to clean up. I'm glad everybody seems to be okay as well. Like, it doesn't seem like the storm took out people more or less just structures, but that's still a big pain in the butt.
It is. There were some serious injuries in some areas of the state, but and a few houses lost as well. So we're very fortunate that things the house didn't get hit. Our neighbors lost a car.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been an experience for sure. But things seem to be back to normal or getting back to normal. And not only am I here with you, but I get to do a regular episode of the Dice Tower with Mandy this week that'll air next week. So that'll be a lot of fun as well.
That's exciting. Yeah. You guys have been mixing it up on the podcast quite a bit recently.
We are. I think we realized that Tom has not been on the show in something like a month and a half. So we're going to have to reintroduce him when we finally see him at Origins.
No one's going to remember what he sounds like.
Who knows? As if there weren't a million other ways to watch Tom throughout the week.
Oh, and I've just realized that by not taking my green screen down, I've given chat opportunities to...
Oh, no. What are they doing?
I don't know yet, but please be nice, chat. I'm sick and I didn't have time to take the green screen down. Oh, goodness. What have I done? Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be a fun thing for things to happen.
I have a feling that screen captures are going to be making the rounds very soon.
Maybe
before the show's over.
Gosh, yeah. I'm going to try not to make any horrific faces, although inevitably that's what YouTube tends to focus on. Like, anytime they do a screen capture or like a thumbnail, it's always the worst face a person made in the entire broadcast, and I don't know how that is.
All right, so let's get your mind off the green screen. We were given a task the last time we were all together. We've got sort of a backlog of games that Tom has worked his way through that are now on our shelves. Let's do yours first, shall we?
Okay, so a few episodes ago, Tom the three of us voted for me to get a copy of Cavern, Tavern. And Eric was bummed at the time because this is the one that he had his eye on as well. And I can categorically say, Eric, that I don't know for sure, but I think you may have lucked out in this regard. This is not a horrible game. In fact, I actually think that this had the makings of an awesome game, and it just didn't quite get where it needed to go.
Okay.
Tom's review seemed fairly similar, and I had tempered my expectations going in. I watched Tom's video review, and I watched a couple other people's reviews of this game, and everyone seemed pretty lukewarm about it. So I went in with not very high expectations, but I found, so Tavern is a dice placement game. You are working in a tavern trying to serve drinks to bar patrons quickly enough that the owner of the bar doesn't get mad at you and the patrons don't get mad at you. You're acquiring ingredients, working in the kitchen, completing chores, and doing other things to try and increase your levels on certain tracks, complete the orders, and get points for them. Where this game seems to fall short for me is the decisions that you have to make aren't very interesting and usually aren't very complicated. So, and that's not to say, I mean, if anyone who knows me knows I actually enjoy simple games, but this one has a lot going on. You would expect a little bit more complexity out of the decisions that you have to make in it. And there are some parts of it that are, in my mind, fully broken. And that is the sign of an underdeveloped game. I have a couple examples of that. So if you do something bad or take too long making drink orders, or one of the other players does a thing on the nasty track, you can potentially have to take a nasty says card, the backs of which look like this. It's Nasty's mouth. Yeah, that's kind of gross, isn't it? And all of the nasty says cards give you a thing that you have to do and limits the number of options you have available to you on the board. It closes off a number of the areas of the board to you. You're not allowed to go there anymore, and until you complete the thing on the back of the card. So, for instance, if I was playing this game, like I was, and I got this card, where it says, even my dog won't eat this, you have to increase or decrease your level on the kitchen track. I don't know if this is focusing. Probably not. That's whatever. You have to move up twice on your kitchen track. And if you haven't moved up at all on your kitchen track thus far during the course of the game, that's pretty difficult to do because nasty says cards prevent you from working in the kitchen. So the way to get rid of this card is something that you're not allowed to do. And I was like, when we got it, we looked through and we were trying to figure out what it actually meant. Luckily, the expansion, which is optional to add in, does give you additional ways to increase your kitchen track level. So we were able to get rid of the card eventually, but it basically was a broken part of the game. And there are a couple other cards that were like that as well. So like other people have said, the game took a little too long to play. The decisions weren't as interesting as I would have hoped. The components were good. The insert in the box is pretty nice. So it's not all bad, but I don't think I'll be playing this one again. I do know that the company that made this released a follow-up game that was kind of a sequel of sorts. And now, of course, I've lost what the name of said game was, Rise to Nobility. And apparently it's a similar style game, but I haven't seen that one out in the wild. I would say that I would be willing to try that, but I am pretty lukewarm on Cavern Tavern, as it were. So that's my thoughts there.
Well, that's slightly disappointing.
Yeah, I know. I like dice placement games, so I had high hopes for this one.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this was exactly the one that was matched up with Cavern Tavern, but I think this is the oldest of the backlog, and this is Grump, which is a terrible title, because, like, how can you remember how to spell that? Grumpf. Grump.
It's better than Xeno Shift with a Y.
That's true. This is from Le Boîte de Jeux, which is a company I have heard a lot of, and Dude Games, which I have not heard from at all. This is a real-time area majority game. Grumps are these sort of, it's hard to see. I'm not sure if you can see these guys in here. You pick one color, and you get a whole array of these tokens that are double-sided. They have numbers from, I think, 1 to 5 on them, as well as some of them have clubs. Those are ones that you can actually knock out other players' tokens with. And you lay out a whole array of these boards that look like this. And you are going to be placing your tokens on these boards. But each board has some sort of special rule that needs to be a condition that has to be met in order for that board to score. So tokens, the things you're trying to collect, get placed on these various boards, and you say 3, 2, 1, go. So like this one has a little 10 below on it. So the total of all the numbers on this board need to be 10 or less, or it doesn't score. There's other ones that you need to be more than 20, or it doesn't score. There's one that needs to be between 10 and 20, and then there are some that have no restrictions whatsoever. So these are all out. You put tokens on them, so there's a varying number of tokens. It's a different distribution for the different types. And you also have these neat little cauldrons that are It's like musical chairs. There's one fewer than the number of players in the center of the board, of the table. You say 3, 2, 1, go, and you start shuffling through your entire handful of tokens. In fact, you drop them on the table, and you can use one hand to flip them back and forth. And then you start just real time placing these things out on the board as quickly as you can on these different boards. And as soon as you're done, as you either say I'm done or you've placed all of your tiles, you place like a wooden token on that cauldron. And you are now safe. None of your guys can be stepped on anymore. The clubs no longer work on your grumps. And once all but one player has passed, the round is over. You check the conditions. You check who has the majority, who has the most number strength on each of the tiles. And they're usually going to get first choice. Also, in addition to the rules of how these things trigger, there's also rules as far as the distribution goes. So first place may get 2 tokens first, and then second place gets 1, third place gets 1, and then back to 2, then 1, 1, 2, 1, 1 until all the tokens are gone. Or it may be just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 for first and second place. Third gets nothing. It all depends on that particular tile. And then after a certain number of rounds, I think you go through all of sets. So if I get one of each of the types of animals that I'm hunting, then I'll get more points. But if I only get 4 different types, that's not worth as much. There's some doubler tiles that can earn you stuff, that can make it easier to make those sets. It's a straightforward game. I don't think there aren't any real flaws in this. This is just not my style of game. I don't like the real-time blitz, for lack of a better word, sorry, Crystal, style of game, in which you just are like, you have to do things. Often the player who moves the fastest, not necessarily thinks the most, is going to do better. So I'm playing this with my kids, and I am trying to strategically place my things. Where are people not placing? Who am I beating? Who am I not beating on these different tiles? And my 10-year-old just goes boom, 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 puts the highest numbers out as far as he can. He'll put like 4 tiles on one just to make sure he wins that board, and just moves as fast as possible, and then places his token on the cauldron, says, I'm done. And then the 6-year-old doesn't even wait. He just says, I'm done too. He knows he's not going to score well. He just wants to be done before Daddy. And so Daddy still has a handful of tiles and is like, I guess I don't get to place. So my kids love this, and they keep asking to play it more because they know that I wasn't terribly excited about it. But it is, if you are a fan of those real-time style games, Jungle Speed or anything that has you sort of scrambling, so you make those mistakes and have to rush. What's the auction game from Scott Nicholson? Going, Going, Gone. This reminds me a little bit of that, where there's this panic of needing to do things quickly, and because you're hurrying, you're not making the best choices, which I don't like. But if you do like that style of game, this is a lovely example. Grump from La Boîte de Jeux and Dude Games. I'm middling on it. My kids thumbs up.
Well, I'm glad your kids liked it. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, the art's cute as well. Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, if you kept bringing review copies of games that they didn't like, eventually they'd probably be like, all right, Dad, where's a good game? But
they'd refuse to play with me. No, occasionally we get a hit in the house. So
that's awesome. All right, so should we move on to the challenge that I have for you then?
I hear you had one ready for me last time, and I wasn't there for it. So I'm ready. I have prepared myself.
Well, so I skipped over that one, and I have a new thing today. And I don't know how amusing this will be or not. I just keep coming up with random ideas, and we'll see how it goes. But today we're going to be seeing. We're going to focus on some words that might be familiar to you, and we're going to see how many games in the BGG database, how many listings contain said word, and how many of those listings are actually ranked as well. So for the first one, I'll give you something that is, well, I'll say easy, but maybe not. It's a word you're probably really familiar with, Eric. The word curl. I know that you're a fan of the sport of curling.
Yes.
So you're going to have to guess how many listings in the BGG database contain the word curl, and then how many of those listings are ranked. And you can guess without any help if you'd like, but I also have multiple choice answers for you for all of the above as well. And if you want those right from the get-go, we can just do that. Or if you want to take a shot in the dark first, you can.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I'm going to say 15.
Okay, so your options are, so for your multiple choice options, you have 18, 29, or 40.
So I'll go with 18.
And you are correct. You are actually really close. I don't know how many points to award you for any of this, so we're just going to say a lot. 10,000 points.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ding, ding, ding. Ah! So, okay, of those 18 games, how many of them are ranked, like actually have a numerical ranking in the BGG listings?
I will say only 3 of them are ranked.
You know what? I'm going to give it to you. It's 4, and you're darn close. So that's awesome.
I know my curling, you see.
You do. See, I started you off with an easy one. And just as a bit of trivia for everyone, the highest ranked game that has curl in the name is a game from 2010 called Caveman Curling. It is ranked 3,352 on BGG. All right, so let's move into something. I don't want to make you feel bad about yourself, Eric. But let's see how many games in the BGG database have the word Eric in them. And how many of those games are ranked. So okay. I guess I spoiled it for you a little bit. I will say the numbers here are not quite high.
All right. So are you including expansions here, though?
If it's listed as a listing on BGG, and it has the word Eric in it, it counts. So when I type Eric into the search bar on BGG with board games as the qualifier, if it's listed, it counted. So that does often include expansions, promo cards, things like that. So if someone's put it in there.
Did you use multiple spellings of Eric?
I did not. I used the generic E-R-I-X, or X. Gosh. Oh, that's 2 days of being sick that will do that to you. You can't spell Eric anymore. E-R-I-C is how you spell Eric.
Okay.
I know that. So that is the only spelling I used.
I will say that there are 8 Erics in the BGG database.
Okay, I will give you your multiple choice answers. Your options are 2, 4, or 9.
It's 4.
It is 4.
Okay.
Okay, so of those 4, how many have a rank number associated with them? 1, 2, or 3? Because it's not all 4 of them.
1. There's 1. And I'm hoping it's Eric Summoner, but it's 1.
There is 1. It is not Eric Summoner, unfortunately. The only ranked game is The World of Eric Carl Very Hungry Caterpillar Memory from 1959. And it is ranked 15,456. Okay, so let's boost your ego a little bit more, because that was kind of disappointing. So let's go with games that have summer in the name.
Ooh. Oh boy. I bet there's a lot of war games that are like the summer of 1944 or something. I'm going to say there are 42 games with summer in the title.
You know what? I'm not even going to give you the options because you're close enough that I can't even. That's so awesome. There's 38.
Okay.
38. That's so close. Okay, so of those 38, how many have a numerical ranking? Do you want options or do you want to just guess?
No, I might as well just take a stab because if
you're doing really
options,
well.
I might mess up.
I honestly thought this would be super difficult, and you're knocking it out of the park. So
I will say of the 38, 12 of them are ranked.
So I guess you're closest to the one of the answers. So there are 8 ranked games.
Okay.
The highest ranked game with summer in it is Indian Summer, the 2017 Uwe Rosenberg game. And it is ranked 1,568.
Wow.
So I don't want to brag, Eric, but our next category is games that have the word crystal in them.
Okay. It's possible that for a totally unrelated reason, I may have searched this term recently.
You and I are way too in sync when we're
I know.
things.
This is why Tom needs to be here to keep us apart. So but I didn't look at the number of results. I simply know that it's more than like 6. So I will say that there are a lot of crystals because there's a lot of individual cards and stuff that are crystal related.
Well, it's a matter of whether people have entered them in as an entry on BGG, though. So
yeah,
I will admit the number was smaller than I anticipated it would be, but I don't know what that means.
I'll say 57.
You know what? Again, you're close enough that that's just too good. So there are 64 games in the BGG database with crystal in them. Of those 64, how many have a numerical ranking?
21.
Okay, I'm going to give you the options this time.
Okay.
Your options are 10, 17, or 29.
Oh, boy. 17.
It's 10. This is the first one that you've kind of gotten wrong, per se. So, that's still awesome. So, yeah, there's only 10 listings with ranked numbers. And the highest ranked game is Vast, the Crystal Caverns from 2016, which is ranked 480 currently on BGG. So, that's pretty cool.
All right.
All right, our last one. He's not here, Eric. And I don't want to make his ego any bigger. But let's include Tom in this little game.
Fine.
So how many BGG entries have the word Tom in them? And I will note that includes any iteration of the letters TOM that appear in a BGG ranking. So words like tomb and tomorrow are fair game.
Oh, boy.
I know.
372.
Okay, I'm going to give you multiple choice options.
Yeah, sure.
Your options are 207, 324, or 401.
401.
It's only 207, surprisingly. Oh, okay. I know. Okay, so of those 207, how many have a numerical ranking? I can give you the options if you want.
Yeah, give me the options.
Okay, so the options are 29, 41, or 54.
54.
That is correct.
All right.
Yep, 54. And the highest ranked game is Exit the Game, The Pharaoh's Tomb from 2016, which is ranked 529. So I would just like to point out that of all of our names, the highest ranked game that contains my name is highest of everybody's, which means nothing, but I thought that was fun. So you did awesome. You definitely get 10,000 points times 10,000, Eric, because you did great at this.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's your score. I know Tom likes to hate on you for being bad at games, but it's him. It's not you. It's not you because you did great.
Yes, it's just him being here that throws me off.
Yep. All right, Tom. I literally, you know what? The sickness is taking over. I can't speak. Eric, I want to hear about your next game.
Sure. Let's talk about a classic. So we just had the Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S. and we had friends from Boston come down and hang out with us, and they actually helped us cut down the tree or haul wood from our tree. But we also played some games, and one that came out was a classic. This has been in our collection for a long time. We hunted it down on eBay so we could get a copy of, and this is appropriate for you being in Las Vegas. Casino Yahtzee.
Oh my gosh, I had that game when I was a kid, and I forgot about it until just right now when I saw it. I'm jealous. I liked that game.
So there was a time when there were a ton of Yahtzee variants that came out. There was Showdown Yahtzee and Jackpot Yahtzee and a bunch of them. And we tracked down many when we were first getting into the wider realm of games, and this is the one that's still here. We still have, I think we have regular Yahtzee, and we have this one, but the others have all gone away. In Casino Yahtzee, you have these trays, and you also have white and black tokens that fill in the spaces on those trays. The dice in Casino Yahtzee are multicolored. You can't really see them with the glare there. There you go. Hello. They are 5 different colors, and you can actually see the number distribution right here on the chart. So the blue die is just a basic D6, 1 through 6. But the orange die is 2 through 7. And then you got the purple die that's 3 through 8, and then 4 through 9, and all the way to the red die, which is 5 through 10. So on your turn, you get 5 rolls. Now you can roll all 5 dice, just go for it, or you can roll 1 die 5 times. Whatever combination you want, you get to roll. And every time you roll a number that you have not already covered on your board, you get to cover it with one of these black tokens. If you manage to get a complete row or column on the board, you will score that number of bonus points. And in fact, that's how you score points. You have to complete a section of the board in order to score points. Once you score that particular row or column, no one else can score that one. So everybody else also has to mark off that row or column on their board. And you do this until the entire outside is complete. There's also a way you can score additional bonus points. If you take the risk and roll all 5 dice and get a different number on each of the die, you add up the dice and you get those as bonus points. If you manage to get a straight by doing that, you get double bonus points. So as the game starts to wind down and your possibilities may be diminished a little bit, you might go for this rainbow bonus and try and earn some extra points that way, as opposed to just rolling the same red die over and over, hoping you get a 10. And when it's all over, this is the coolest thing. So you've got this whole thing full of chips, and it slides into the tray to empty it. That's so cool. I don't know why.
It sounds so funny because, like, I had really forgotten what this game was, but it came back to me as you were describing it.
It's the flashbacks have hit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that this one has not returned to the marketplace. It could be that they can't produce. This is a lot of plastic. There's a die tray as well. This probably would have to look a little bit different if you were to produce it today.
I mean, it's literally a roll and write game. As you described it, like if you made those sheets like individual pieces of paper that you just marked off, like what you described is exactly like a modern roll and write game. It just happens to be chips on a board. So if you made it with pads of paper instead, it would be really easy to produce, and to just all you would need was the custom dice, and that's kind of it.
Or dry erase boards too would also work. Yeah. But anyway, that's Casino Yahtzee, and we still had a blast with it. I think it's a gem. It's a good one.
I'd forgotten about it entirely, and now I'm going to probably go to eBay and probably see if I can procure one, because I kind of want to play it again. I know I really liked it as a kid, and yeah, that sliding tray, you'd think that would be, it would mean nothing, but it's fun to slide it out and let all the chips fall into the little tray there.
And all those different trays actually do connect to each other. If you're sitting properly at a square table, they're connected to the die. In fact, you can see it on the front. You can connect it to the dice tray and have it all in one unit, which is pretty cool too. This is a giant box. That's the other downside. A roll and write version would be a lot smaller.
Oh, for sure. All right, Eric, is it okay if I talk about a game that's technically or not at all a board game?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So I got a chance to play a fairly new VR virtual reality game at my friend's house a few days ago. And I'm sure some of our viewers have probably heard about it, but I have to tell you about it. It is Beat Saber. Which is, I could not resist discussing it. So I, back in my college days, played a lot of Dance Dance Revolution on the weekends because, well, I'm a nerd. So that's the thing that I did when other people were going out to the bars. We were still drinking, but also playing DDR. So when I heard that there was a new VR game that was a rhythm game that involved lightsabers, I was already enamored with it before I even got to play it. And now that I've gotten to play it, I think it's finally tipped me over into I really need to own a VR headset territory.
Oh, man.
So in this game, it is a virtual reality game. You're wearing a headset and holding on to whatever controllers for whatever VR system you're using. And blocks are flying at you. And they're either red or blue. You have a red saber and a blue saber. And the blocks will have an arrow on them of what direction they need to be slashed. So if it's got an arrow pointing to the left and it's red, you'll take your red saber and slash it to the left. And these blocks are flying at you, kind of slowly in easy mode. And then as you up the difficulty, they're coming at you lightning fast and all over the place. There's also these big red walls of what look like Jello that you have to physically navigate your body around. And that's sometimes moving to the left or the right, or actually ducking your entire body below them. And you're still having to slash at blocks the whole time. Oh my goodness, is this game fun? I cannot tell you. And it was funny because a bunch of people wanted to play. So like one person would play a song and then we'd pass it off to the next person. And I was just sitting there like, I want to play again. Like I told my friend, I was like, I might move in because I just want to play Beat Saber all the time. So I know a lot of people really liked Guitar Hero and Rock Band and DDR and those other rhythm games back in the day. If you're a person who liked that style of games, it doesn't matter whether you like Star Wars or not. Definitely try and seek out a copy of Beat Saber and give it a try because it is a ton of fun.
Oh boy. I mean, I've seen videos of this happening, but every time I've seen it, it's a third person perspective. So it's somebody like playing in front of a green screen or something so that we can see them, which looks amazing, but I don't get the full sense of what it looks like when you're playing it.
Right.
But it looks really impressive and a blast to try out. I'm not sure if it's worth buying an Oculus Rift system just for that, but
I think and that's the thing. I've been like, there have been a few games that I was like, oh, I kind of want to play. Maybe that's enough. And between that and the new expansion for the Star Trek Bridge Crew game that's either just come out or coming out soon, it's hard to resist at this point. I'm trying to pull up. I have photos of me playing it. I don't know if that'll give you a good enough. Oh, maybe. So there's me standing in front of the system, and you can see the lightsabers on the screen. Sorry, it's a little blurry. I don't know if I can make it clear up, but it's so much fun. I love it. I would highly recommend it to anyone who already has a VR system or a friend with a VR system. Definitely give it a try.
How was the music selection?
So I guess the base game only comes with about 20 songs, and they're all pretty like electronica in nature, which is kind of what you would expect for a game like that. But then my friend had a bunch of mods downloaded, and I know he's fairly tech savvy, but I don't think the process to do that was too difficult. And he had a bunch of really, really cool ones. Like he had the DuckTales theme song. He had Derezed from the Tron Legacy soundtrack. And my favorite, he had the Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I definitely played the Time Warp. And it literally was having me jump to the left and like slash to the right. It's so good, Eric. I can't tell you.
That
I love
sounds
it.
fun.
Love it. Beat Saber is awesome. And I wish VR was more affordable, so more people could get into it. And I think it's going to be at some point, but I wish it was right now because I want it.
All right. So for my challenge for you, I sort of blended it because my son picked up a game show game recently. He spent some of his money. I did not buy this for him. He said, I want this. Knowing nothing about the TV show it was based on, he just thought it looked amazing. So it's time to play the Feud.
Family Feud.
This is the 40th anniversary edition of Family Feud. It's from Endless Games. There's Steve Harvey on the front there. And I was playing versions of Family Feud, years and years ago. And the system is pretty similar.
Okay. Yeah, 100 people surveyed, top answers are on the board, all that.
That is how it goes. And of course, the centerpiece of the whole thing, let me make sure I'm not showing anything, is the board. It has little plastic sliders. So we can see that, here we go. The top 5 answers are on the board.
Okay.
And the question is, and you get to play a couple rounds of this.
Here we go.
Name a sport that does not contain the word ball. We'll see how many you can get before getting 3 strikes.
Okay. I will say that does not contain the word ball.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll say tennis.
Tennis survey says, ding, number 4 answer with 11 votes.
Okay. How about soccer?
Survey says, number 2 answer with 27 votes.
All right. How about golf?
Golf seems like it would be pretty high up there. Survey says, number 3 answer with 13 votes.
Okay. I mean, I want to say curling, but somehow I feel like it's probably not on the board.
Yeah.
Let's go with polo.
Survey says, no, that's 1 strike. And it has a dry erase board that you would then mark the strikes on. Yep.
Okay. Oh, well, I mean, here, look at the shirt. We got to say hockey, right? Hockey?
Of course you do. Hockey. Survey says number 1 answer with 32 votes. So can you get the last one?
Oh. It's not basketball, not baseball, not football. You got tennis, hockey, golf. There's got to be something obvious I'm missing. Although I guess if it's the number 5 answer, maybe it's not that obvious. How about, I said polo already. What's popular in other countries? Swimming? I don't know if that counts as a sport. We're going to say swimming.
Survey says yes, the number 5 answer.
Yay!
So now here's the cool part that sort of elevates this just a little bit. I mean, this is a mass market game. It's plastic and cardboard. But the version that I played decades ago then required you to do a whole bunch of stuff to reset to the next question. This one, I'm going to show you the back now without showing you. So you got to see, here's my view during that.
Oh, okay.
Which has the question on the top and all the answers there. But then there's this dial on the bottom. So the questions are they're a piece of paper. There's a whole pad of all of the questions. You tear one off, fold it, and stick it in this thing. But now that we're done with 1 answer, now that the whole thing's falling apart, hang on.
That's where the mass market part comes in.
Yes,
it's okay. As long as the game is good.
Yes. There we go. It was not snapped into place. So next, there is this little dial at the bottom that was set to 1. And now that I will reset it, I will move that to 2, and it lifts the paper just slightly so that the next question is in view. So now I'm ready instantly to do question number 2, where the top 5 answers are on the board. We're only going to do 2 of these.
Okay.
So the second question, name an important city in the art world.
Oh, okay. Well, number 1 has to be Paris, right?
Survey says, ding, yes, absolutely. Number 1 answer, 44 votes.
So if we're thinking about other places where famous museums are located, then New York has to be on the list as well.
New York, survey says 28.
Somehow I feel like this streak is not going to continue all the way down the list, but let's go with Chicago.
Chicago, survey says
they've got great museums in Chicago.
Well, I'm sure they do. It's just these 100 people didn't say that.
Oh, let's go with yeah. How about Washington, D.C.?
Washington, D.C. has some amazing museums. I saw just a few recently. Survey says, though, no.
Okay, so I'm trying to think where else in... So wait, give me the question again, because it's not just about museums. It was just about important to art, right?
Name an important city in the art world.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of like where famous works of art are located. And unfortunately, my brain is real fuzzy right now. So things like the Sistine Chapel I should know where that's located. And at the moment, I cannot remember. But let's say another famous city in Europe. Let's go with Barcelona.
Barcelona. Survey says. What was that? Was that 2 or 3?
I think that was all 3.
That was all 3. So now we're gonna look at the list. Number 5 answer. Venice.
Venice. I was heading in the right direction, maybe.
Number 4. Philadelphia.
I don't think I would have gotten there.
That one stumped us as well. I mean, Philadelphia, I'm sure, has lovely art museums and stuff.
Oh,
but
totally.
It's not. I don't know why it's above anything. Anyway, number 3, Rome.
Rome. Okay. Those all had 10 or less, so that makes me feel a little better. They weren't like top of mind kind of stuff.
So the game, if we were playing for real, would continue for one more regular question, and then there's the fast money round. So one team that did the best would go up against the fast money, where you're supposed to give 5 rapid answers and then earn up to 200 points in order to win. And then if we were playing the full game, you do 3 of those. So you'd go all the way through fast money, score points. So if you get fast money, you then score like an extra 1,000 points or something. And after 3 full rounds, whichever team scored the most wins the whole thing. But really, you can just play one game and be done with it. I'm pretty happy with the presentation. We did run into a couple of misprints in the in some of the question sheets, where they were sort of misaligned or out of order, or they had the wrong number, or not printed one of the answers on the board. But in general, it's pretty solid and a neat way to play Family Feud. I mean, I always sort of, with these game show games, if you can emulate the show as closely as possible, then I think it's a success.
Yeah, I'd say that's great with Family Feud. That's great.
You can do this. You do need a host. You need somebody to do what I was doing and operate the machine. And my kids keep wanting to rotate who the host is. So sometimes I get to do it, and sometimes they do it, and sometimes the 6-year-old wants to do it, and he can't read all the words, and so he gets to something and has to, I don't know what this is. The 10-year-old thinks he knows the words and then mispronounces half of them. It's fun. Anyway, you did very well, Crystal, and I think the Family Feud Anniversary Edition is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, and I like it when mass market games, anything that's going to get people into the toy and game aisle at the store and potentially looking at all of the games, including some of the ones that we talk about a little more frequently, I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah. So let's move on to what we had suggested for a discussion topic. We were like, what do we want to talk about? We just not just the games that we had played recently, but we are heading into con season for some of us, like Tom. He's already been going to like 5 different events so far. But one thing that I struggle with all the time when I'm at a convention is how much should I buy there? And how much should I try and play there, learn about there, with the intention of buying later? Because there's all sorts of releases. If you're going to one of the big events like Origins or Gen Con, there are tons of releases in which you may be able to get a game significantly before the general public. They'll fly in copies. They may have 100, 200, 300 of them, sometimes a very limited amount. And your local store isn't going to have that for a couple weeks, a couple months sometimes. So how many games should you consider doing that with? Because I've made the mistake where I have rushed to buy something, and it's at a premium. They're not doing any discounts for these brand new releases, and rush to get it, and then I don't get it to the table because I've done this with 5 different games or something, and I only get 3 of them to the table before they're all out in the local store. So was it really worth it for me to, 1, spend the money, 2, the luggage space, and the effort of rushing to this particular booth in order to get this brand new game that I wasn't going to get a chance to play until after everyone else could get it as well? Have you had this difficulty, Crystal?
So I I don't know if lucky is the right word, but I haven't been to a lot of the larger conventions. So this experience hasn't really happened to me as much. Most of the smaller conventions I go to, games aren't getting released. But I think this kind of applies also to like maybe pre-orders of new games where you're pre-ordering something directly from the publisher in advance. And I'll omit Kickstarter games from this and maybe just pre-orders, essentially, where you can either pick it up at a convention or have them ship it to you in the first wave. And I've definitely fallen prey to that before. I pre-ordered First Martians from Portal Games when they had that, and then didn't get it to the table for quite a while after I had pre-ordered it. So yeah, I feel like it's not a waste of money per se. You know, if you have the disposable income available to you, it's not a bad thing to directly support a publisher. And if you're buying a game from them, either through a pre-order or directly from them at a convention, you're potentially helping them because you're cutting out the costs that they would have had to spend to get it to you through other channels. You know, when a game hits your game store, it's potentially been through 2 other companies' hands since it left the publisher. And so the publisher is seeing less of your money as a result. So if you want to support a publisher, I think buying from them directly at a con has benefits aside from just you getting it early. So I don't think it's not all bad, even if you don't get it to the table right away. But obviously, yeah, if you buy a whole bunch of them and then don't get to play any of them right away, it does kind of, imagine, feel a little bit weird after the fact.
You make an excellent point. I think it is worth thinking about that you are directly supporting the publisher if you are spending the money at the con. A lot of us are more adjusted than things at a convention. Unless I have done my research and know exactly what I'm doing, I don't rush for anything. Well, you guys are all great, because I apparently have this. I have this problem. I think it's probably good. I mean, there's opportunities at conventions to save money too, because you can get deals on stuff that's been out for a year or two.
Oh, that's true. Especially if the publisher has copies of it that they've just been holding on to, they might be willing to let them go for a lesser amount. Yes.
Well, certainly. I mean, Mayfair, they're gone now, but they used to have a whole rack of their older titles that you could get for half price. Also by doing their Ribbon Quest and get some good games for not a lot of money. And also the second-hand retailers, the third-party retailers that are selling old CCGs and older games that they're just trying to get rid of stock on. There's always a booth that sells Rio Grande titles for super cheap. And if you're looking for that stuff, maybe a game you've heard good things about from 2 or 3 years ago, you can probably save some money and get something at a convention. But apparently the chat is far better than I am, at least, at holding on to to their money and waiting a little bit, being patient. And so Ambi is in the chat and says she likes the cons that are for playing games, not buying games. So that works pretty well too.
For sure. I think for me, it's tough because as my collection has grown, I've had to kind of cut back on just buying things sight unseen. Mm-hmm. Especially like if I don't know a lot about a game, I try not to get too wrapped up in the hype machine, as it were. And I try not to buy games that I haven't at least played once, although I break that rule pretty frequently. But I try and do a little more research than I used to. I guess when I was early in building my collection, I would literally just hear one person say, "This game is great," and then I'd order it. And sometimes that turned out to be awesome. I watched a video from Shut Up and Sit Down a number of years ago where they were raving about Steam Park and then bought it, and I love it. It's one of my favorite games. So sometimes that works out really well. Other times, not as much.
Buying before playing or watching reviews have burned me too many times, says Rick in the chat. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you guys you already know what you're doing. I try and keep to just like 3 at this point. titles that I want to rush for, because that's about all I can get through before they'll be available everywhere else. The other limiting factor that I like is is having only the one suitcase if I'm flying to a convention, especially for something like Essen, because it's very easy to go overboard when you have all of these games that you can't necessarily get anywhere else, and all of these publishers from outside the US and European publishers that you won't get to see at the US conventions. And I know that once I reach my weight limit in the suitcase or reach the size limit in the suitcase, I'm done and I can't buy anymore. I'm not going to ship it home. And I find that certainly helps from getting too far overboard.
Yeah, it sounds like most of the people in the chat have had similar experiences.
Yeah. So I guess that's some rules of thumb, and you folks in the chat already know what you're doing. Do your research. You don't have to rush for everything. I know people who show up to Gen Con with a few $100s, and this is their big buying time, and they just, here you go. They just go loose, and that's when they're buying most of their games, and they are buying them at a premium, and maybe going through a lot more hoops than they necessarily need to.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that in almost every case, those games will be available later if you want to buy them. So you don't have to grab them. You don't have to be first. But I fall prey to the, you kind of do want to be the first person to play that new awesome thing. And I get where that can be a trap that's easy to fall into. But I think now, especially as board games have really blossomed and publishers are, bigger and more experienced, that I think games are getting into distribution faster potentially than they used to. And so I think that that's helpful.
So we have a few more minutes before we want to shut down tonight. So if there's anything in the chat you'd like to ask me or Crystal, now's the time to do it. While we're waiting for those to come through, Crystal, when is your next convention that you'll be headed to?
So Dice Tower Con will be my next convention. I will not be joining you all at Origins in a couple of weeks, which is sad, but totally okay. I'll actually be traveling the weekend of Origins. I'm going to be visiting my family in the Midwest, but I won't be with you all at the con. So yeah, Dice Tower Con will be my next one, and I'll get to see all of you there, and I'm really excited about it.
Yes. And by the way, congratulations on episode 100, right, of your show. No, two-year anniversary. That's your big milestone.
Yeah, it was our 2-year anniversary of Board Game Blitz, and we are currently releasing our top 100 games of all time, which is something that we've never done before, and we're doing it in video format, 10 games every day, and we've released up to 50, I believe, or 40 now. So we're nearing the end of the list. The last bits of it will come out end of this week and beginning of next week. It's been a really fun project for us to do. It was way more difficult than I anticipated, even going in thinking it was going to be difficult, but I hope people are enjoying it, and that will hopefully give people a better idea of who I am as a gamer. And all of those videos are over on the Board Game Blitz YouTube channel. So if people want to check that out, those are there.
So a couple of questions coming through. Yes, this is a portal turret that's on my microphone.
I saw that a little while ago and I forgot to mention it.
Let's see. How do you know what games to buy overseas? Most of what I have learned about, like, for example, Essen, comes from the Board Game Geek resource. W. Eric Martin does a fantastic job categorizing and cataloging all the information he gets from publishers before Essen and many of the other big conventions throughout the year in a lovely searchable format where you can actually flag games that you're interested in and come back to them, make sort of custom lists for stuff that's worth checking out. And so it takes a lot of research time, but I like to look through all of that, find the things I'm most interested in, and track down those booths when I'm actually on site. But especially for Essen with like 1,000 games coming out, that's a lot of work.
For sure. I think, yeah, I kind of rely on the internet as well. I hear, what people are talking about. Often the Spiel des Jahres nominees are kind of a good touch point because sometimes there will be games in there that haven't hit the States. So I'll use those to kind of influence what I am looking at potentially from overseas. So that's helpful.
Jobby asks, what is the next game you're looking forward to getting or playing?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I just got a couple of new ones recently. Ooh, actually, I do have an order coming from Amazon.de with some games from Europe, including Ganz Schon Clever, the Spiel nominated, or the Kinderspiel nominated roll and write game. I recently just got to play Knock Mall for the first time, and I have that coming as well, and a few others from overseas. So I'm excited to get those to the table when they arrive.
Nice. Did you also get Würfel Bonanza in that order?
I did get Würfel Bonanza in that order.
That's a very cool one.
Yeah, my friend Kathy brought that to game night. After I ordered it, she told me that she already owned it, and so she brought it. And I was like, well, let's hope I like it since I already ordered it. And I did. It was really fun.
I just did a cool stuff order for the next 3 Unlock games. Those, I think, are out tomorrow. So those should be shipping soon, I hope. Maybe I'll get to play one this week. No, they probably won't get here by the time the weekend comes. But still, I'm very excited to play those. As far as new stuff, I really want to play the new Choose Your Own Adventure game. I think Tom played that.
I'm excited to try that one as well. So apparently my dog is too.
But as far as the stuff that's coming out at conventions, I haven't done my research yet to see what the list of new releases are, and really plan ahead yet. But I'll get there. There's all sorts of new releases that I can't necessarily. Somebody's asking if they can play with your dog. The new releases that are coming out of the conventions, I'll be able to process those soon. Someone it scrolled off. I wanted to make sure we ask, what is your favorite game show?
I saw that question. It's a really tough one. I've loved and watched a bunch of game shows over the years, and I like all the classics. I like Jeopardy. I like Wheel of Fortune because I am a word nerd, so that one especially. I think of like the big ones, I think Wheel of Fortune's the one I would probably do the best at. But I think there's another word-based game show that I like more, it's Lingo, which I guess is So I love Lingo, and I've always watched that game and been that horrible person that's watching the screen and yelling at the people like, how do you not know what to say here? Then those, obviously when you're in the heat of the moment, it's way harder to come up with the answers. It's way easier when you're on your couch yelling at the screen. But yeah, I like Lingo quite a bit. But I watched a lot of game shows when I was a kid. So a lot of those classics. I mean, Family Feud was always good. Press Your Luck, the original one, was great. I love the story of the guy that figured out the pattern to the board on Press Your Luck and won a ton of money before they figured it out.
Yes. Press Your Luck was one of my favorites. It's not one that I really wanted to be on. The one I really wanted to be on when I was younger is Double Dare.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Eric, I didn't even think about Nickelodeon game shows. Okay, hold on. So there's Double Dare. There's What Would You Do? There's Nick Arcade. There's Picture Perfect, I think, which is the one that was next to Nick Arcade. It was hosted by Mike O'Malley.
Okay.
The only Nickelodeon game show that I refused to ever would be on Legends of the Hidden Temple, because those temple guards were scary.
Yes, my son has been watching old episodes of Legends of the Hidden Temple on YouTube, and he watched and rented with his own money. He gave me $5 to rent the Legends of the Hidden Temple TV movie that recently came out, which is, if you haven't seen, if you're a fan of the original game show, it's worth tracking down this silly TV movie where they make all sorts of references to the original game show and how no one could put together the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
No, I know. I was like, that has to be part of it, because that silver monkey, no one could ever put it together.
The kids are trying to put it together, and they're like, this should be easy. And then they put up a sign that says 4 hours later, and they're still working on it. It was silly, but it was fun. I think maybe the one that I would hopefully do the best at, that I think I would have fun on, would be Pyramid, the $100,000 Pyramid.
Okay.
That one,
partner though.
I would. I need a celebrity partner though.
Yes, that's true.
But something about the pace of that show. There's no nonsense in Pyramid. They get right in. Here's your category. Ready, go, and boop, boop, and the final round of that is always so tense, and you got your hands strapped in. You have to sit on them, and I would enjoy being on that show quite a bit.
So you know they're bringing back Double Dare, right?
I do. There's supposed to be new episodes this summer, but they haven't. I haven't seen like a final date on that. I'm excited to watch those.
I'm very excited as well. I don't know if Mark Summers is involved. I know that there was a documentary about Mark Summers that came out last year, although I don't think it got wide release. I think it was just like screened at a couple of small places, and then I haven't been able to find it. But it's called On Your Mark. And of course, Mark is spelled with a C. And I really want to see it because Mark Summers is a really interesting personality. You know, he's done a lot of stuff with Nickelodeon and on the Food Network.
Yes.
And he's struggled with OCD, which is interesting to hear about considering he worked on one of the messiest game shows ever. So if anyone knows where to find that documentary that I could watch it now, feel free to drop that in the chat. Not as a link, though, because you can't put links. But tell me where to find it.
Yes. He did. There was a reunion show, I want to say last summer. So he's back involved with the producers and sort of happy to be doing things again. So I don't know. I'm hoping he's the host because that would be a blast to see him doing that again.
Yeah, I think they did a live action one at Comic-Con either this past summer or the year before. I want to say that was recent. I think they did a live Double Dare.
Yeah, like I think that was the show they showed was whatever they did at Comic-Con in a live event.
Okay. So basically, we just need to convince Tom to do a Dice Tower Double Dare event at Dice Tower Con. And then we can slide down the giant tongue into the vat of green goo and all of the other messy things.
Well, I mean, it's in Orlando, home of Nickelodeon Studios. There has to be something we could work out, right?
There has to be. I mean, the Dice Tower is so huge, Nickelodeon will hop on board immediately, I'm sure.
Yeah, we should probably stop this fantasizing right now. It is just about time to wrap things up. Crystal, I'm not sure when we're doing Dice Tower Tonight again, because in 2 weeks, Tom and I will be at Origins, and I don't think we'll be doing the show from there, unless something changes.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are going to be doing it from there, or if I'm going to be doing it with other people again, or if we'll cancel a week. I'm not sure. We'll have to talk to Tom and see what the plan is, but obviously, I'm sure everyone can go to the website, which is for live videos, which is, I think, dicetowerlive.com, if I remember from what Tom said. Or if you go to dicetower.com, I'm sure there's a link to it there.
Yes.
So,
and so until next time, I'm Eric Summerer.
And I'm Crystal Pisano.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight. Thanks for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Origins will likely disrupt our schedule, but Tom, Crystal, and I will see you soon for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Tom, Crystal, and me with assistance from Derek Porter and Rob Seary. My co-host's realization that her Mirror Universe counterpart is indeed a Muppet, provided by Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal board game. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek, on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun
gaming. Bye, everyone.